The first time Hokulea jumped off my surfboard into the ocean, my heart just about stopped. I dove into the water because I thought I was about to watch the worst happen. But instead of panicking or struggling like almost any other cat would, Hokulea calmly swam a circle around me, then climbed right back onto the board as if it was the most normal thing in the world. That was the moment I realized I might be living with a cat unlike any I'd ever seen. The funny thing is, Hokulea wasn't born loving the ocean. In fact, the first time I met him, I wasn't even sure he'd ever be brave enough to come out from under the bed where he was hiding. I first met Hokulea at an animal rescue shelter. While all the other cats were trying to get someone's attention, Hokulea seemed determined to disappear. He stayed hidden under a bed, curled up beneath a blanket, quietly watching everything with wide, cautious eyes. He wasn't aggressive, he was simply too scared to trust anyone. For some reason, I couldn't stop thinking about him. I had this feeling that behind all that fear was a cat with a truly special personality. He just hadn't been given the chance to show it yet. So Hokulea came home with us, and little by little, everything started to change. At first, he was incredibly timid. The smallest sound would send him running for cover, but every day, he got just a little closer. Before long, Hokulea started following us everywhere around the house. If I walked into the kitchen, he followed. If I sat down to work, he'd curl up beside me. Even when I stepped into the bathroom, Hokulea insisted on coming in just to see what I was doing. It was actually in the bathroom that we realized he wasn't like other cats. Hokulea wasn't afraid of water at all. Whenever I took a shower, he'd sit nearby watching every drop of water with complete fascination. During heavy rainstorms, instead of hiding indoors, he'd wander outside on purpose. A few minutes later, he'd come back completely soaked, looking happier than ever. That made our whole family wonder something that sounded almost ridiculous. Could there really be a cat that genuinely loved water? Since we spent so much time at the beach anyway, one day we decided to take Hokulea to a quiet stretch of shoreline and see what he would do. At first, he was busy exploring the sand. He sniffed every shell, dug little holes, and played with bits of seaweed the waves had washed ashore. Everything seemed new and exciting to him. Then, out of nowhere, Hokulea looked toward the ocean and started walking straight for the water. I expected him to touch the water with one paw and instantly jump back like every other cat I've ever known. But he paused for only a second before taking another step. The water reached his paws, then his belly, and he never looked afraid. Instead, he stared at the little waves like he'd just discovered an entirely new world. I had my surfboard with me, so I gently placed Hokulea on top and paddled into some calm, shallow water. We took everything slowly. No big waves, no crowds. Just the ocean, the breeze, and one very peaceful cat quietly watching the horizon. It didn't take long before Hokulea started walking around the board on his own. His balance was unbelievable. He casually strolled from one end to the other like he'd been doing it his whole life. Then, without warning, he jumped into the water. I panicked and went after him immediately, but Hokulea didn't need my help at all. He swam naturally, circled around me once, then climbed right back onto the board. No fear, no struggle, He was simply enjoying the ocean. From that day on, the ocean became Hokulea's favorite place in the world. We started spending more and more time out on the water together. To help him feel comfortable, I turned an old boogie board into a little shelter on the surfboard where he could rest whenever the wind picked up or he wanted a break from the sun. Before long, he barely needed it anymore. Hokulea grew more confident with every trip. He walked across the board like an experienced sailor. Whenever he felt like swimming, he'd jump in. Whenever he was done, he'd climb right back up. Sometimes I honestly felt like he could swim faster than I could. People often ask me how I taught a cat to surf and swim in the ocean. The truth is, I never taught Hokulea any of it. All we did was give him a safe place to explore at his own pace. Every decision was his. If he didn't feel like getting in the water that day, we'd head home. If he wanted to stay out longer, we'd stay. I think that's what makes Hokulea so special. He never tried to become a famous surfing cat. He simply followed his curiosity and kept doing the things that made him happy. Somehow, that was exactly what amazed the world. The little cat who once hid under a bed because he was afraid of everything now floats peacefully on the waves, swims confidently through the ocean, and enjoys every bit of the sea breeze. Hokulea didn't just change the way I look at cats, he changed the way I think about trust. Sometimes animals don't need to be trained into becoming something extraordinary. They just need a place where they feel safe enough to become who they've always been.